Today you'll be joining us, Pertello, for the webinar series NetSuite 2025.2 highlights and tips. My name is Travis Perkins, joined here with my colleague CJ. We make up the team today, and we'll be working through the slide deck as we go through. Now, there are some pieces that I might be able to show it directly in NetSuite. But there's quite a few slides because it is release preview we'll talk about here in just a second. But before I get to that, let's talk a little bit about Pertello if you have or join us for the very first time. What I want to do is introduce Pertello, our team. We have experts in every industry. Our goal is to help customers grow in their business processes within NetSuite. Now, if you don't already know, if you're not working with this, just a friendly reminder too, if you are, we have a functional team and a technical team, two wonderful teams that we work on with our clients on the functional side and on the technical side. Our technical side is very adept to integrating technologies. So not just NetSuite technologies, but third-party or custom creation. So again, just from a technical standpoint, integrations within NetSuite. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of this webinar series. So I just wanted to introduce that we have the functional and technical teams. Both CJ and I are coming from the functional side. So let's go ahead and continue. So here is our webinar overview. So I want to talk about number one a little bit more in depth. If you've joined us before on our previous series for the release preview, I want to talk about that, and I'm going to show just a couple of screenshots that I have regarding release preview. So if you're not already aware, we'll start with number one, and we'll go ahead down through number 8. So CJ will be covering the second half. I'll cover the first half. Release prep for update and tips. What I want to do here is convey to you that you have an opportunity with your instance, release preview. And release preview is what you actually have in addition to your NetSuite production, and if you have a sandbox instance. So you may see currently, depends on when your release date is coming and when your actual production instance is upgraded to the new 2025.2 release. If you don't already have it, this is what I want to do, is show you what it would look like in your environment. So when you log in, you may have an option depending on the roles that you have, but here's a login screen that you would potentially see. So for Pertello, when I log in, I see our production, our release preview, and our sandbox. Those are 3 separate instances. And I'll just talk a little bit about sandbox and release preview. If you are not familiar with having these instances, they are completely separate from your production instance. Typically, we have customers that use the sandbox instance to do their vetting, their testing, their training, because in the sandbox system, you can really work through scenarios. You might break the system. You might be wanting to try some new processes that you're not impacting the production environment directly. So the sandbox is a great place to do that. So now, as you anticipate where I'm going with this, is you have a small window of having an opportunity to use a release preview, and that comes with your instance. So you have an opportunity to sign up for it and log into release preview, which is your production copy of your production instance, but on the latest 2025.2 release. So all of the release information that's updated is your production instance with that in there. And what you can do for the duration until your system's upgraded, then release preview is actually taken away from NetSuite, and then you just go back to either your production instance and or your sandbox instance that you'll continue working on. But release preview is a great opportunity, if you don't have a sandbox, to do some of that testing and vetting that you've wanted to do in production, but you don't want to break stuff. So you can use release preview not only to test the new features and functionality, you can use it for training, for testing out scenarios, and getting more familiar with areas of the system that you might not have had an opportunity to take the time and do. So take advantage of release preview. It's there for you to do, and it comes with your instance, all right? So this is what it would look like when we're logging in. And the other screenshot I want to show you is, and the reason why I'm showing you screenshots is because we don't have a demo environment with actually 2025.2 release in it. So these are some that I've made up. So here is where you see when I log into Portello, I see my sandbox. I'm already in my production instance as the employee center up here, but then there's that release preview. That's what RP stands for. All right, so take advantage of it, and I will move on back to the slide deck. Transaction line data. Now, pay close attention to this slide because I called it transaction line data. It is really referring to in the release notes, if you read them, is that NetSuite introduces that service tier dashboard. And that dashboard is under in your menu, setup, company, and then there's the service tier dashboard. That service tier dashboard, this is NetSuite's giving you the opportunity and the availability of information regarding your specific service tier. Now, if you don't know what your service tier is or what the service tier is about, let me just describe it quickly here. Your service tier is based on your licensing, your current licensing agreement with NetSuite. And what NetSuite is doing is providing the service tier dashboard, and they've made enhancements to it because it has been there, but they've enhanced it. And I'm showing a screenshot of just the opportunity you have, and they're giving you to see some of the metrics in your environment. Now, this slide is kind of fuzzy, but what I want to do is like some of these last two lines in here, what they read is full license users, current 66 in this system, and then service tier limit 100. That means in this particular service tier, let's say this is the licensing that I currently have for my instance, I can license up to 100 full license users. Currently, I'm only at 66. All right, so it's showing me this information. It's showing my usage too. 66% of my full license capability of 100 is where I'm at. So same thing with the file cabinet. And this is something that you may want to look more closely at depending on how you're using processes in NetSuite. If you have a high volume of transactions, and in those transactions or in any records like customers, vendors, any of your not to get into the weeds, but purchase orders, receipts, sales orders, opportunity records. If you're using artifacts, files, PDFs, attachments from those conversations that you're having with customers, vendors, vendor agreements, you can attach those files to transactions or to static records like entity records like vendors and customers. And if you have a high volume of those attachments, they're going into the file cabinet. So down here, it's showing that I'm only at 26.1% usage of my overall service tier limit, which is 100. That's in gigabytes, by the way. Now, this is the service tier dashboard. Now, I want to tie a few other functional areas together with this service dashboard as I talk about it regarding your transaction data. So I did call this transaction line data because I'm going to transition to the next slide and tie together the service tier dashboard information that you can see inside your instance to your billing information. Now let me go back actually. Here on this slide, you can click view billing information. That's the next slide I'm going to show you. In this slide, you can see, and I'm just picking on file cabinet full license users again. In this slide deck, you can see that I'm currently provisioned for 66, and I'm currently using 63 full licensed users. So this is interesting in this regard. I'm only licensed for 66. I'm only using 33, all right? So something to point out is my service tier said that I have capabilities of using up to 100. Once I reach that 100, I need more or additional licensing, then we should be having a conversation with Lynette on our team about your licensing configuration so that we can help you understand that next move. If it is to a next service tier level, which would then increase the availability and the quantity that you can have in terms of full licensed users or an additional file cabinet space in gigabytes that you can use. So just be aware that when you look at your billing information page versus your service tier page, there's a little bit of a difference of what you're licensed for and what you can license up to in your service tier. Now, this inset here, this transaction line workbook solution, so there's three pieces, and this is the third piece that I want to tie together, is in the SuiteApp store that NetSuite offers. In that menu at the top, when you're logged into NetSuite, you have a SuiteApp menu. You can click on that and you can type in transaction line workbook, and you can download the analytics workbooks that contain information regarding transaction line data. That transaction line data, that NetSuite is going to do, it'll automatically do once you download the SuiteApp. Those reports will be in the analytics section of your NetSuite instance, which I already said, but I'm just repeating so you know. In analytics, when you go to that workbook and you run it, what you're going to see is month by month your transaction line information. So when you do look at that information will provide you the ability to see where you're at on a month-to-month basis. And there's a lot of data depending on, some of our clients just have financials only, and then other clients have a full array of licensing in their instance, which is manufacturing, inventory, AR, AP, which is procurement, right? Sales order processing, all of those. And when they are high volume, they're paying attention to see what they are on a monthly basis, because the customers want to know, and NetSuite's giving you an opportunity to find out what your transaction line information is on a monthly basis. So it all ties together, and I'll tie it together here as the end as we move on, is you have the service tier dashboard, you have the billing information page, and then you have the transaction line workbook. All three of those you can merge together in terms of gaining knowledge and understanding of how you're using the system, what you're licensed for, and where you measure up to that licensing of whether or not you need to move on to that next service tier as an example. All right, let's move on from the transaction line data and service tier dashboard, and let's go on to the enhanced transaction management for bank reconciliation. If you've been in our other webinars, I've spoke about the transaction, the match bank data page. So this is the reconciliation process within NetSuite. So you can do bank and credit card transaction reconciliation, right? And in here, what NetSuite did in 2025.2 is, and by the way, this match bank data, it's a favorite of mine because it's functionality that is native to NetSuite. And as NetSuite continues to their growth model, they've enhanced this particular area. And I think that if you're using it, good for you. If you're using the match bank data on a daily basis for your reconciliation towards the end of the month, even better, right? So you're just fulfilling that obligation, working towards reconciliation towards the end of the month for your financials, and you're doing it daily. So it's not just this huge cumbersome process at the end of the month. So that's one reason I appreciate it, because if you're also using bank feeds to synchronize your bank data into NetSuite, so you're not having to do that extra work with downloading the file, massaging it, and then importing it in, and then going to the matching bank data, you can use bank feeds to bring that data in automatically, and it's synchronized once a day, every 24 hours. And so whatever information is updated, you can use that to reconcile. All right. Now, I did get a little bit into the weeds there, but it's exciting because you can use that to gain efficiencies in your process. So at the end of the month, you've really done most of the work during the month to do that. Well, what NetSuite has done is enhance the ability for you to use this match data page and the reconciliation process. So here on this page, I'm just showing you, I'm on the review subtab of the match bank data page. And to me, now it's pretty boring. You just have the view details, date type, and transaction number, and you notice you don't really have any other options. But on this next slide, I'm showing you NetSuite has actually enhanced it so that you have the ability in all three subtabs on this page. Now you can select all functionality, allowing you to select all transactions on the current page of the transaction grid. And the review subtab on the reconciliation account statement page also has this functionality. So the selections actually persist as you go between pages of transactions, or when you're applying filters, it allows you to select transactions across multiple pages. This is a big deal because right in the current version, you're having to individually select or deselect what you are trying to accomplish in your matching data set, right? Before you get to the reconciliation part. Well, now you have all of these options in 2025.2 as you begin your process, follow it throughout the month, and then you reconcile at the end. So in addition to that, right, you've got this bulk selection that you can submit and undo multiple general ledger transactions concurrently on the match bank data and the reconcile account statement pages. So that's exciting. Don't mean to get too much into the weeds, but here is the reconcile account statement currently and then right after the 2025. And this is what I talked about in the beginning when I started talking about the match bank data page. So this is an exciting note for me. I think it's, with clients who use it or who are beginning to use it, gain quite a bit of efficiency to do that. So let's keep moving on from this. And it is about matching, but it's along the lines of account matching report that is now available in 2025.2. This is the first version of it. It's a SuiteApp version, so you can go out to the store. And I do want to show that real quick. So let's take a sidebar over to it. Let's see here. So here is at the top, right? Here you see my bar at the top, and there's a lot of functionality in this particular instance. But what I'm talking about is going to the SuiteApps, right? So when you click on the SuiteApp store and you have then an opportunity to, I think my headset just disconnected. I reconnected it. In here, if I type in account matching, this is the screenshot that I showed you in my slide, but here it is, right? I'm going to select it, and this is the account matching report SuiteApp that helps you visualize transactions in the general ledger. So let's go back to my slide deck. But in here is the SuiteApp store that also where you can pull down that transaction lines workbook that I told you that would be under analytics. And here's the analytics subtab. I'll mention too, still to this day, after years of having that analytics menu at the top, I have clients that just they disregard it in the sense that it's just not part of their everyday activity, right? But it's here, maybe poking you in the eye. If you click on it, there's a lot to explore within it. And so in here in this system, there's a whole lot of workbooks, but that's where that workbook is going to be when you download it. So I digress. I apologize. Let's get back to the slide deck. In here, you have the ability now with the account matching report SuiteApp version 1.0 to do a lot of things, right? And so let's look at it a little bit more closely. Again, don't have a 2025.2 demo account to show you this information, but I can show you it here via this screenshot. So each transaction line in the report has several columns you can see and identify with it. So there's several columns sourced directly from GL account data, such as debit and credit information, which you can see I've highlighted. This particular transaction is one that in this system, I had to look and find why and where this particular deposit was remaining. It didn't have a match, and it's telling me that I have an unapplied amount. I think this is a pinnacle part in NetSuite where you didn't really have this capability otherwise. And now you do have the ability in this account matching report so that you can review related transaction details, including matched amounts and the dates when transactions were matched. The SuiteApp supports both the AP and the AR accounts receivable, accounts payable side. Then the really cool thing I think is that for everybody who is an Excel guru, you have the ability to export this out, and then you can do further massaging of that data, run some analytics or however you decide to. But it really does a nice job of giving you the ability to work with that. So those are the areas that stuck out the most while we were reviewing some of the release preview or the release notes for 2025.2. And that means I'm kind of bringing it to the end on my section. What I want to do is, as I introduced earlier, my colleague CJ, he and I have been on other webinars together. He's going to continue on and talk about projects. So I'm going to hand that over to CJ. Thank you.
Okay, Suite Projects. If you have the Suite Projects module in your NetSuite environment, there's going to be a couple changes coming in 2025.2. The first being the access to revenue plans that correspond to the project. So if you're utilizing revenue recognition within NetSuite, you can now access revenue plans for a specific project that you're looking at directly from the project record. So as in the past, if you were in like the previous instances of NetSuite, if you were looking for that revenue plan, you would have to navigate to the related records on the project. Then you would have to find the revenue arrangement and then go into the revenue plan. Now you're going to be able to do that just straight from the project record, and that's done by going to financial and then the revenue plan, and that will display a list of all revenue plans that correspond to that project. And it's important to note that that is for revenue plans for actual and forecasted revenue. Also, in 2025.2, the project manager role is introduced. So this is a specialized role, and it is used for if you have project managers within your organization that you really want to silo their access to the system, so they're not really going to be interacting with other transactions or other records that don't pertain to the projects that they're assigned to. You can assign this role to them, and then when they're in that role, they're only going to be able to look at any projects they have assigned to them, manage any resources on those projects, or any time and expenses. So a great way to kind of control the way a user interacts with anything outside of what they're assigned to within your organization. Inventory management. So if you are utilizing bins, and what I mean by that is if you have a location or locations within your organization where you're keeping inventory and you are associating that inventory with a bin in order to keep track of where it is within your organization, you are able to, via the import assistant, actually associate those bin numbers with particular items. So you can, if you may have some familiarity with the import assistant, you would go in and perform that import just like you would any other type of transaction within NetSuite, with the distinction that you're going to choose for the import type as supply chain. And then for the transaction type, it's going to be the bin put away worksheet, at which point then you can map the appropriate fields out for the information that you want to import and then proceed with the import as you would any other. So a great way of being able to do this in bulk rather than having to go through and individually associate these inventory items with particular bin numbers. Customer 360. So I actually was helped present a webinar talking about this in the past. And Customer 360, if you're not familiar with it, is available on any customer record. If you navigate to a customer record, in the upper right-hand corner of that record, you'll see View Customer 360 as a link. You can click on that and it'll take you to this Customer 360 dashboard. Customer 360 is a great way to view all sorts of valuable information about a customer, what their sales are like, what their receivables are like, items that they might be consistently ordering, their sales patterns, and so forth. There's been a few upgrades to the Customer 360 dashboard. The first being the different tabs that you see when you arrive on the dashboard. So currently there are 5 tabs that are visible, that being Overview, Opportunities and Estimates, Orders and Returns, Receivables, and Activity. So in those tabs, there have been additional KPIs that have been added to those individual tabs. So for Opportunities and Estimates, you now have the ability to view a projected total of estimates, a weighted total, the number of opportunities that have been won, and the number that have been converted. So the number of estimates that have been converted, sorry. So great at-a-glance information, and all of these connect to, you heard Travis talk about workbooks. These all connect to workbooks as well, and I'll get into that a little bit more a bit further on, but worth noting now. Orders and returns tab now has additional KPIs. So at a glance, you can see how many orders a customer has placed within the year, how many returns they've initiated within the year, how many in-progress orders or sales orders that haven't been billed yet are still either awaiting fulfillment or are partially fulfilled, and the average order value for a customer. So all that is available at a glance through Customer 360. The receivables tab, you can now see how many open invoices there are for a particular customer, how many overdue invoices this customer may have, and the available credit memos that are outstanding for a customer. And again, as I mentioned before, all of these connect to analytics workbooks. So what you can do is click on any one of those KPIs, and they're going to bring you into that workbook view. And Travis talked a bit about that workbook view, but it bears repeating is the linked workbook that you can see the screenshot of here. You're able to, just like a save search or a report in NetSuite, you can make changes to this workbook if you want to add columns to view additional information about those transactions that are driving the KPIs. You can do that, and then you can save it off as its own workbook. So that way you have that information saved to come back to reference, to distribute out to maybe somebody in your organization. Really, whatever you want to do with it, you have that flexibility available to you. Finally, the activity tab on the Customer 360 dashboard. So this is a new addition, and it's really a comprehensive list of everything that's kind of going on with the customer inside of your NetSuite system. So everything from transactions like sales orders, invoices, quotes, phone calls, any kind of activities that are logged, messages. So really a great unified view of really just everything that's taking place in the system as far as correspondence or transactions with your customers go. You don't have to search around, looking around for these different records. It's all available to you in one place, which I think is really handy. The copy to account feature. So if you have multiple instances in your, multiple environments in your NetSuite, like say a sandbox and a production environment, you may have noticed that there is a copy to account feature. This is often found on custom forms, for instance. If you've attempted to use this in the past, you may have noticed that it's pretty good about copying over native NetSuite or putting it another way, forms that haven't been customized or heavily modified, but it hasn't been always so good at moving custom objects over. Now with 2025.2, now the copy to account feature is able to copy over those custom objects and their dependencies without restriction. The dependencies part being a huge part, is that's usually what would restrict that copy to account from going through. So also, if you've ever attempted to use it and gotten an error, can be a little opaque sometimes as far as what the actual problem is. So NetSuite has enhanced that as well. And now error messages provide more details about what's causing the issue and then what the solution will be for getting through that error. They also appear in red, so you have more visibility when an error comes up. The next button on the copy to account process is disabled, so you won't be able to proceed forward until you address that issue. And if you're going to make those changes, or you're going to bring that information over from one instance to another, when the system goes through and looks for those dependencies, it's now going to let you know that there may be a translation collection associated with some of those items that you're attempting to bring over, and it'll let you know that those are not going to be brought and they'll have to manually be updated. So a lot clearer, a lot better visibility as to what might be the problem when you're trying to copy objects between the two accounts.
If you had an opportunity to join us for our AI webinar, I was just working with Eddie on our team. We've recently done some configurations in other client instances with RightInsight. And I actually was talking with Kara and Rachel right before this, and we added this slide. I wanted to just stick with the theme of the newly released products. One of those is what we have created, which is called RightInsight. And I wanted to bring it up because it's actually it's important for me to bring this up because it is an incredible feature that NetSuite is allowing us to use in the configuration that we have with our clients. When you can actually type into NetSuite, if you saw this in our AI, type in questions that you have about your data, its structure, that NetSuite AI, RightInsight, is what will provide the information back to you on screen. And you have way greater capabilities now to just have that conversation with NetSuite and your data within your instance and have AI serve the information back up to you. So if you would like, just reach out to me directly after this and let me know if you'd like to connect on RightInsight. I just wanted to give that a quick update there, that it's incredible. And if you haven't seen it, please take an opportunity to reach out to me and we'll get you connected so that we can walk through that with you. The next slide is for our Q&A. One thing that I wanted to mention that I was thinking about earlier is the detection, duplicate detection in NetSuite. So before, as we're in this Q&A section, I just wanted to bring up that what was the runner-up for me when I was looking at the release notes was the near match duplicate detection that NetSuite offers in 2025.2. Now, it is in the release notes, but when I went into an release preview account, I couldn't find it. But if you are familiar with navigating to setup company, and it's in that menu, the duplicate detection configuration page. And in the future, there will be a check mark in there for the near detection, near match duplicate detection management. And what I want to describe to you is, and maybe some of you are on here or have experience with duplicate records in NetSuite. What this refers to and applies to is both on the AP and the AR side for looking at static records in NetSuite. So live, when you're entering information in the system, it will, rather than be so like defined for you that it's looking for an exact match of a duplicate naming convention or something you type, now it's going to look for near matches. So NetSuite is totally broadening what it could potentially show you as far as a duplicate. So it's really thinking outside the box for you now, and it's using some AI technology to do that. So just be aware that if you do have some of those duplicate detection nightmares in your system, the near match duplicate detection will be available soon. And it was a runner-up. I didn't show it as a slide because it just wasn't in there yet, and I don't know if it's going to be, but they mentioned it in the release notes. All right, moving on. So some Q&A. Let me just take a moment and look to see if we have any additional questions. If you do have questions, please ask those now in our thread. And if you don't, I know, like I said, one of those was some of the release notes about duplicate detection. Okay, so I do see we have a question more about the bank and match bank data, the reconciliation process. If you hadn't read in the webinar chat, I wanted to bring up to you when I was talking about it, it is native functionality. You can go under transactions, bank, match bank data. That is the new reconciliation process away from the old, which is being deprecated. So you still have in your menus to reconcile account statement. Those are, and it'll show you the banner at the top that those are deprecated. The question the question is being asked about that still being available. It is, and I know that they're going to deprecate it sooner or later. It actually is functionality that can help you resolve reconciliation issues that you might have when you're doing match bank data. So the functionality is still there. You can leverage it. If you need some information on how you could leverage it, just reach out to me directly after this and let me know. Bank feeds, if you're using bank feeds, this is another question that came up. What is bank feeds? So bank feeds is an opportunity for you to connect NetSuite directly to your bank. and the accounts that you choose to integrate with will download, as I mentioned before, every 24 hours, those transactions from your bank into NetSuite. When you go to the match bank data page, you'll see those transactions on the left-hand side. So you don't have to manually download that information, massage it, and import it manually. You can have the bank feeds. You can enable and configure the bank feeds so it does it for you automatically, saving you some time. So if you need some help with that, please just reach out and let me know. CJ, not to call you out, but if you see any other questions, I didn't see any
Yeah,
others
we
want to
do
come
have
through.
some
Kara?
questions.
Okay, good.
For the near match, can this apply to sales orders with any customer POs as well, or only available in AR/AP?
So sales orders, not specifically, no, but there is some additional functionality in there that you can use. Let me see. And I love this functionality too, but now I just, the name has escaped me. What is it? Oh, the automated cache application. Explore that. And if you're interested in learning more about how that automated cache application, that's a matching scenario too. And when you have transactions come into NetSuite, you can have these invoice transactions automatically created in your system, but you'll need to use the automated cache application portion of the reconciliation process. That too is native functionality. You don't need additional licensing. And I would say to a lot of our customers, if you're not using it, why not? Because it can save quite a bit of time. Thanks, Kara, for that.
And we have someone who doesn't find the matching bank data to be that easy to use. So they're asking if it's able to be exported to Excel, the bank rec data.
The bank rec data is not capable of being exported, not currently anyway. Once that data is in the system, we have written some customizations to help our clients with that reconciliation process out of NetSuite. But natively, you can't just take all of that and get it out. So that is functionality they're not allowing.
Thank you. And did we get a chance to test the multiple sessions per user edition? I'm guessing we haven't since we don't have our own release preview yet, but we'll let you know about that one.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It'll be exciting to test that. And again, if you already have release preview, go use it to its fullest extent that you can, and you have time during the day to do, because it's pretty nice to have that for 4 or 6 weeks duration. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Reach out if you need anything at any time, and look forward to working with you in the future. Take care.